So, are all disabilities the same? Are acquired disabilities and disabilities that we are born with the same? Do we need all the same sort of accommodations, and do we have the same attitudes and lived experience? Well, today we are going to talk about remembrance. Remembrance Day is marked on November the 11th every year in Canada. And it is to recognize the soldiers that departed or served our country. We also recognize that acquired disabilities happen through war, and we want to talk more about that today. Welcome to another episode of the Pity Party. We are three Muslim Canadian women with disabilities living in the Toronto area for several decades now, with a combined lived experience of disability of over 150 years. We have something to say about everything. We have something to say about nothing. We have something to say, and you're going to tune in and listen to our pity party. My name is Rabia, and I'm blind.
My name is Rafia, and I'm in a wheelchair.
My name is Omaya, and I'm in a wheelchair too.
So, November 11th is Remembrance Day, where we commemorate and honor the contributions of our veterans, our soldiers, who go out there and defend our nation, who go out there and keep the peace, who sometimes go out there and pillage and rape and destroy. War has various dimensions, and some of us have lived through some of those in more direct ways, and can be quite emotional through this. I have been blessed not to have experienced any direct impact of war, but view it through television. And so much of that has shaped my worldview and my stance on human rights and the work that I do. So, all of us acquired our disabilities very early in life or from birth. So, we don't remember life without a disability, really. Over time, our disabilities have evolved, have maybe increased the barriers we experience. We've gotten exposed to technology and tools to overcome some of the barriers, et cetera, et cetera. But we never experienced a total able bodied world. There are people out there who don't share the same lived experience as us, who acquire their disability as they age, perhaps acquire an illness, are in an accident, or are a part of the experiences of war and war inflicted trauma. They acquire physical and invisible disabilities. Let's talk about acquired disabilities versus born with. In my opinion, I think being born with a disability is much easier because we don't know any better. I don't miss seeing because I never saw. I don't miss driving because I never drove. Oh, well, okay, I lied. I drove one day on a dark, dingy February night in a parking lot, okay? My husband, when we
Whoa,
first got married,
Rabia.
said to me, Sam said to me, "Did you ever drive?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Okay, move over." And I said, "Are you sure about this?" I started cars every day to warm them up for drivers, but I never drove. And that one snowy night
Snowy night.
in a parking lot in Mississauga, I got to drive with a little help, of course. It was fun.
Snowy night. Was it like decided like that?
It was a snowy night.
Okay. You're brave, Rabia, let me tell you.
I know,
Well,
I know.
I'm a little daring sometimes.
And I think more brave than you is your husband.
Yeah, he could see what I was going to drive into.
I
Okay.
know. That's what. Yeah.
So so anyway, so when people acquire a disability, they acquire a lot of loss beyond the
It's hard.
disability
Hmm.
Yeah.
because they have
Yeah.
to change their lifestyle. They
Mhm,
have to sometimes even change their careers, right?
mhm.
They have to change the way they live. Sometimes they even lose their home and lose their family,
Yeah.
Mhm,
you know. People who acquire conditions like multiple sclerosis, for example, their spouses a lot of times don't stand by them because it's such a difficult disability, right? When somebody has a stroke and becomes quadriplegic essentially, or has a spinal cord injury, very few people stand by them.
mhm,
Life is really different.
It's
So
hard.
let's talk about that.
mhm, mhm.
Like, I grew up in the war in Lebanon. Like we had the civil war, right? So I've seen so many people with disabilities as a result of war.
Mhm,
And like you said, Rabia, it's a different ball game altogether. Like I know my best friend actually, he was studying civil engineer and he was top in his in university, right? I think he was two or third year, and he had a spinal cord. Like he was hit by like a bomb fell in the area, and like a piece, it's little piece, like the size of a like a grain, like a little piece, hit
Wow.
him in his back and went into his spinal cord, and then he was paraplegic, right? And then, like you said, Rabia, he had to change. He can't be a civil engineer anywhere, not in Lebanon anyway, right? He can't make it to the university, right? So he had to change all around, and first he has to take care of himself and get all the help he need in a wartime, right? So I've seen that, I've witnessed it, like it really impact the whole family. You end up like family having issues, and many families can't survive it. Like mom and dad, they will leave, and kids, they'll be neglected because the focus is on the person, right? Because he
Mhm,
needs help, right? 24/7. So it's eventually they'll figure it out, but they need years and years and years to learn about the disability and to learn what can they do and to get over the emotional part, because we live in the same society, and suddenly you're looked at so differently and things that
mhm,
you
mhm,
didn't even know the first thing about, right?
mhm. And even the person themselves, they have to adjust. There's that grieving process of what they lost, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes we find in my work in the disability community, I find there's some people who are okay with their disability. Excuse me. Actually,
That's
I'll come back. I'll come back. Take over.
it's just,
Yeah,
yeah, what
yeah,
i what i think actually, it really goes back, just to continue on Rafia's thought, it goes back to the circle of support. You go back to that. If you have the right support and who can provide you that layer of support that you need, until it's like you got a punch in the stomach, like it's more severe than that, but you need to come back from that, and to come back you need help. Like you need, at a minimum, people to understand that, okay, this happened, now what can we do, let's
Yeah.
learn
well,
about it,
let's
right?
talk about some people that we know that have acquired disabilities, like our good friends. Mazen. Mazen
Yeah.
acquired a disability. He lived 22 years as an able-bodied man who was a mechanic,
Yeah.
and suddenly, in his case, I guess there were no polio vaccines that were given out. He ended up acquiring a disability as a result of polio. It only took 3 days, and he ended up paraplegic in a wheelchair, in a
Yeah.
power. And that was in Iraq, and we did a documentary, guys, through erdco, if you remember,
Yeah.
Yeah.
about his story. That's out there, Three Lives: A Journey Out of Darkness, right? That our late friend Bill McQueen produced.
Mhm,
And in that video, Mazen talks about his three lives: being able-bodied, being disabled in Iraq, coming to Canada, and getting all these services and being able to live an independent life, right?
mhm,
And it's very difficult. And our friend Minu, right, who
mhm,
also has a spinal cord injury as a result of an accident,
mhm.
and a beautiful woman who ended up using a power scooter and had to basically relearn how to live,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm, mhm,
It's very hard. Like, I mean, Rabia, I transitioned from crutches, from using crutches to a wheelchair, and it was a mind blowing experience.
mhm,
Suddenly, like the little crack in the ground could I could really tip over it because
Mhm.
I
mhm,
don't know how to use a wheelchair.
mhm,
So it's like it's easier said than done. Like do like and if we really wanna, like, there were programs in Lebanon before, I remember, because we want to educate people on what people with disabilities go through, especially the change, right? They
mhm,
used to bring wheelchairs and ask people to try it.
mhm.
Simple. Just sit in a wheelchair and try it. Go
Yeah.
out. Go. So you have that first-hand experience because that will make you connected with what is it, like how bring you closer to the feeling. So you start appreciate the challenges. Because unless you understand it, you're
Mhm.
not going to be able to, like at least understand it. Then you can move to the next thing to see how can
Mhm.
you help, right?
Yeah. And coming back to the whole issue about wars, right? As a disability advocate, one of the things I remember talking about so passionately about is the whole issue around landmines and
Yeah,
how they, there's so many, landmines still unexploded
yeah.
that are there out there, and people lose limbs, they lose their lives, they become disabled because of
I
this.
have, Rafia, I can
Yeah,
share.
and in countries
Yeah,
where most people who acquire disabilities in war are in countries where there aren't services,
yes,
where accessibility
yeah.
is really difficult, and
They know.
we destroy their natural way of being and knowing through
Yep,
these weapons of mass
yep,
destruction that somebody has mastermind and economically benefited from. Like, you know, with all due respect to people who defend us and defend our nations and defend our freedoms, we have no right to
correct.
destroy people's lives this way.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Like I have a real time story I can share with you. When I was in Lebanon and I was volunteering for the, Lebanese Organization for Disability, there was a case where 40 people, they go to, we're farmers, right? We're farming area. So they went to the farm and they usually have this big truck that they all stand in. It's summer and they're going to the farm, right? They don't drive on the street. It's just farming, right? So the truck went over a landmine.
Wow.
40 people, they were either dead, severely injured, or amputated. If you're lucky, you were amputated both legs. If you're lucky. So I knew about them because they needed, and they were, some of them, they were younger, they were like teenagers. And, they, so International Red Cross was there offering services, but remote, like far. It's like 2 hours drive to get to them. And these kids, they have no way of getting there. And their parents, they don't have a way. So we used to arrange for them because every 3 months they have to go to the center for the amputees, because just think about it, look how simple this stuff is. Their bone grow, like the amputee leg, the bone grow. When it grow, it start poking them. They can't wear the artificial leg anymore. They need it changing. So
Mhm,
sometimes they have to change the leg. Sometimes they have to do a surgery to remove that bone that grew. So I learned all that first experience from volunteering for that organization.
Wow.
Imagine the pain and the agony. And these
mhm,
kids, not just, they can't make it to school. Like they just spend their life, a lifetime, just rebuilding themselves.
mhm.
Maya,
And
you know
those,
what I remember?
yeah,
I remember you telling me all your stories of how you volunteered in the
yeah,
war and stuff,
yeah,
supporting people. And
yeah,
I remember this one time, for the first time, that you and I decided to take our kids to
yeah,
watch fireworks.
yeah,
And you told me how frightened you
yeah,
were from the
yeah.
Mhm.
fireworks
Yeah.
Wow.
because
If
Yeah.
they
I don't,
reminded you
if
of the
I,
bomb.
up to now, look, if I'm sitting in the house and there is like an occasion, let's say Victoria Day or something, and they're playing fireworks, and I can't link in my mind that it's Victoria Day, I go back to the war right away. I
Mhm,
get the panic, and my heart almost stopping. I'm
mhm.
scared. I don't know what to do, right? Because the
Wow.
voice is the same. The noise, like the voices that are coming, are the same, like the war, right? It's
Yeah.
just here they do it for fun.
Yeah.
For me, I say, as beautiful the fireworks as it is, if I'm not paying attention, right, to
Hmm.
me, it takes me back to the war time.
So
And I,
powerful.
yeah. So I always, honestly, I had this idea that children of war, they never grow up. They never grow out of that thing. Like they
Yeah,
become adults, they function, but anything that happened could take you back in a
yeah,
blink.
yeah. It's a trigger. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're in a safe country. We're in a safe place. We are, we have this lived experience of disability from day one. We understand, though, that the struggles of people who acquire disabilities are very different. And
Mhm,
we also support all those efforts that encourage safety and security and prevention, right?
mhm,
Prevention. So, not driving drunk, for example, because you kill and maim people, not, provoking war because
mhm.
people are harmed for a lifetime, and
Yeah.
there's no freedom when you violate somebody that way. My freedom isn't worth that to me.
Absolutely.
Also at workplace too, there are a lot of workplace, accidents
Injury.
that
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
So
So
that's
those
another.
safety
I
protocols
think
are
safety,
important.
yeah, the safety of people is number one. Should
Mhm,
be number one because this whole world does not mean anything without people. If you
mhm,
take the people out of the equation, this whole world is none is it doesn't make any sense, right?
mhm, mhm,
So the value should be to the human being and
mhm,
not anything else. Anything else can change.
And it's
mhm,
really important to those people out there who have recently acquired disabilities. Don't compare yourselves to us who have this whole lifetime of disability experience, because we've developed skills and abilities as people with disabilities. We haven't had to relearn things. So your challenges are unique, maybe different than ours.
Right.
And reach
Yeah,
out.
and focus. I say one thing to them, like everybody's disability is unique, like no
Yeah.
two
mhm.
people are alike.
And
So I say look within you for your abilities. Take it
mhm,
from me. Focus on what you can do and put your energy and effort behind that, right?
yeah,
And you're
and
gonna see,
everybody do the best they can do with whatever resources that they have available to them. And
absolutely.
that goes for people without disabilities too.
And
The
yeah, I want
general.
to add
And
one more
you
thing.
and
I
you
think,
can do things.
yeah,
It's not the end. It's not
absolutely,
the end. If
absolutely.
it
And
was
I,
the end, at the end is something that nobody can prevent. If
Mhm,
you
yeah,
are given a second chance, there's a reason. You have to find your purpose, and
yeah,
you have to figure out what you can do. It's
yeah,
not what you can, it's what you can. It's always, yes, I can.
yeah.
mhm,
I wanted to say something. I've always to the people with disabilities or any person who feel like they're lacking something or they don't belong, right? You are good as you are, and the goodness is inside you.
mhm,
Do your homework, connect with the people who can help you to find the goodness that's inside, and
mhm.
make sure you bring it outside. And once you bring it outside and you see all the goodness, that's going to give you the incentive and the motivation to do more and more and more, and reach out to the good people, the positive people who help you do that.
And you have to find people with disabilities in your life, because when you find people with disabilities in your life
Yeah.
who are active, who are having a full life, maybe they have a career, maybe they're married, maybe they volunteer, whatever they're doing,
Yes.
find those people out there, because it's very empowering when
Mhm.
you see somebody like you achieving all those things that you want, because
Yes.
that inspires you. We need inspiration from each other, folks.
Yes,
So
and another message too is that you don't have to do it alone. Just
Right. You're
model
not alone.
successful people. Just
You're
model
not.
success mentors. That are there to
find
You're
help.
not
mentors.
alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
find mentors.
Mhm.
You're
Reach
not
out
alone.
and find mentors. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another episode of The Pity Party. Thank you.